Bonjour tout le monde, c'est moi Charlotte. Aujourd'hui nous allons regarder... Ah oui, c'est là, ici, je regarde pas là. C'est moi Charlotte et aujourd'hui nous allons regarder un texte sur le Gémeaux. En fait c'est un signe astrologique. Je sais qu'il y a des oiseaux qui chantent là-bas, qui font du bruit, donc peut-être que je vais fermer la fenêtre. Que pensez-vous, hein? Non, je laisse tomber. So guys, we're going to look at a text today which is all about the astrological sign, the zodiac sign, Gemini. Parce que en ce moment, c'est le 10 juin, donc cette vidéo en fait, c'est un peu en retard. Donc je suis désolée pour ça, mais c'est juste parce que la vie c'est difficile. Il y a plein de choses qui se passent, et donc voilà. Et voilà. Ok, donc là, j'ai mis wordreference.com si j'en ai besoin. Et ici, j'ai écrit un texte que j'ai trouvé sur astrocenter.fr. Donc, c'est un texte sur le signe, le Gémeaux. Ok, et moi, je vais commencer par, en lisant le texte que j'ai trouvé. Donc, moi, j'ai pris une section du texte parce que je ne peux pas mettre le tout sur ici. Donc, j'ai mis ce que je pouvais faire. Ok, le tableau, c'est un peu trop petit pour mettre le tout. Donc, j'ai enlevé un peu des sections du texte et j'ai écrit ça. En fait, ça s'était laissé. Donc, le Gémeaux. Je suis désolée pour les reflets. Le Gémeaux en astrologie, un signe d'air. Un signe d'air. I'm sorry guys, this is like how my writing tends to look. It looks different depending on like my mood and what pen I'm writing with, etc. Le Gémeaux en astrologie, un signe d'air. Point. Le Gémeaux est le troisième, ça veut dire 1, 2, 3, troisième signe astrologique, voilà. Entre le 21 mai et le 20 juin. Le 20 juin is the 20th of June. Le soleil se balade dans le signe Gémeaux. Il vient alors fermer la période et se termine lors du solstice. Un moment. Okay. Dans le signe Gémeaux. Il vient alors fermer la période et se termine lors du solstice d'été. Ah ouais, solstice d'été en fait, c'est plus particulier en fait. Il fait la transition entre le printemps et l'été, symbolisant le changement et de joie et d'insouciance. Le Gémeaux a besoin de réfléchir pour appréhender le monde qui entoure. C'est en se posant certaines questions difficiles qu'il pourra mûrir. Mûrir, ok, non mourir, mais mûrir. C'est autre chose ça, c'est différent ça. So we've got lots of interesting verbs and nouns here. So let me find some of the verbs that we have. So we've got one here which I just need to check the meaning of because I'm not sure that the cognate that I'm thinking of is exactly how it would be best translated. Oh yeah, okay, to grasp, cool. So Le Gémeaux, first of all, when we see an accent comme ça sur le E, la lettre E comme ça, accent aigu, so this like, what do you call that accent? Can't remember what you call it, aigu. Let me just see what that's called. Aigu. No, can't remember what it's called in English, I'm not silly. Ah, acute, an acute accent. Okay, so when you see an acute accent like this over an E, then in French you pronounce it E. So normally when you've got a letter E in French, it's pronounced E. A, B, C, D, E. Okay? E. But here we don't say le Gémeaux, we say le Gémeaux. So that's an E sound, okay? So that will help you whenever you see an accent like that, pointing up towards the top right of the letter, if you like, from the bottom left to the top right. That's an accent aigu, an acute accent. Le Gémeaux. Here we have an E-A-U. Whenever you have an E-A and a U sound, like the word eau, de l'eau, eau, that means water in French, then the E-A-U, even if there's an X on the end, it's going to be an O sound, okay? So it sounds like the letter O. O. Le Gémeaux en, that's in, okay? It's a preposition en astrologie. So normally that en would be pronounced like that, en. Le Gémeaux en, but here we have a word that begins with a vowel at the beginning, so you would kind of like pronounce that N because it precedes an A, so like this. Le Gémeaux en astrologie, un signe, un is one. You can either say un or une, depending on the gender of the thing that follows. So un signe, le signe, c'est un nom masculin, so that's a masculine noun. So un signe, signe means a sign, d'air, that's a D apostrophe A-I-R, with a capital A. Un signe d'air, it's an air sign. So in astrology we have 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. Water, air, fire and earth. So this is one of the air signs, okay? Le Gémeaux est le troisième, I don't know if you can even read this, T-R-O-I, oui, I-S-I-E-M-E, troisième, deuxième, quatrième, cinquième. So this is a way of talking about numbers, and you'll see that kind of E-M-E with a grave accent. So that's an accent that goes from the bottom right to the top left. Grave aigu. C'est le troisième signe astrologique. So it's the 3rd astrological sign. Entre is a preposition. Entre means between. Entre le 21, 21. So when you say 21 in French, you say 20 and 1. 21. 21. And you pronounce the T in 20. 20 is like 20 because it's followed by E, which means and. 20 and 1. 21. Entre le 21 Mai, M-A-I, May, between the 21st of May et le and the 20 juin, 20 again, 20 without the T being pronounced, but you pronounce 21, pronounce the T because it's followed by E, 20 and 1. Le 20 juin, so between the 21st of May and the 20th of June, le soleil, capital S here because it's a celestial body, le soleil is the sun, le soleil, se balade, travels, moves, wanders if you like, dans, that means in, so we've got on and we've got dans, two prepositions which in English would be translated as in. I'm not going to go into why that is now, but just be aware that there are two ways of saying in, essentially. Le signe Gémeaux. So we've got le signe Gémeaux several times here, plusieurs fois. So between the 21st of May and the 20th of June, the sun goes for a little wander through the sign of Gemini. Il vient alors lors du solstice d'été. So it's there, basically. It is then there until lors de, until basically. Le solstice d'été. So when you have lors de, that would normally be the preposition de, but because you have the word solstice which follows it, which is le solstice, c'est un nom masculin, normally that would say le solstice d'été, which is the summer. Été is summer, of summer. Solstice of summer. Summer solstice. Normally that would say lors de, and then this would be le solstice d'été. But in French, when you've got preposition de followed by an article like le or la or L apostrophe or les, then the preposition de changes. So de, de plus le, okay, when it's de plus le, which shows you that the thing that follows is a masculine singular noun, it changes to du, okay? Lors du solstice d'été. So the sun stays in the sign of Gemini up until the summer solstice, which is on le 20 juin, which is something I recently realized. So, il fait la transition, so it makes the transition, or it marks the transition, entre, so we had that before, didn't we? Entre means between. Le printemps, P-R-I-N-T-E-M-P-S. It doesn't help, does it, that my writing is so scribbly today. Le printemps, spring. E-T, that's the word and. L apostrophe E accent aigu, T, E accent aigu. L'été. Il fait la transition entre le printemps et l'été. So it marks or it makes the transition between the spring and the summer. Okay, comma. Symbolisant, symboliser would be the verb to symbolize, very similar to the English, but here it's in the ANT form at the end. So symbolizing, le changement. Le changement means change, okay? Symbolizing change. Where am I looking? That's a T again, E-T. Soufflant. Okay, souffler is to blow or to whistle. It means to push air from your mouth generally. Soufflant un air de légèreté. Blowing or introducing an air of lightness or levity, if you like. Okay, légère. Léger, if something is léger, it means it's light, as it doesn't weigh very much. So, an air of lightness or an air of levity, okay, depending on what we're talking about. Légèreté. So we've got an accent aigu, accent grave, and two more accents aigus. Légèreté. You'll see the accent aigu over the E in the word très. It's a bit more like an E from the English pronunciation of the word egg, but the other E's are E, okay? A bit like in the word day, A, as opposed to okay. So, il vient alors, so we're talking about the sun. The sun, alors, ferme la période et se termine. I think I just completely messed that bit out. So, entre le 21 mai so between the 21st of May et le 20 juin, on the 20th of June, le soleil se balade dans le signe Gémeaux. So the sun moves through, basically. Se balader, to move through, which is like kind of wander through. That's a reflexive verb. Se balader, wander. Takes a trip through. That's a nice way of doing it. So there's something informal about it. So it takes a trip through. Essentially, it moves itself through. It's a reflexive verb, wherever it is. Se balade. Takes a trip through the sign of Gemini. Il vient alors fermer, then it stops. La période. Il vient alors fermer la période. It ends the period. Et se termine. It ends with the summer solstice. Il fait la transition, so it makes a transition between, or it marks a transition, entre le printemps, between spring, et l'été and summer, symbolising, le changement, change, et soufflant, that's right, and blowing, or souffler is to do this, siffler is to whistle, excuse me, souffler is like to blow air. So yeah, ignore. Siffler is to whistle, ignore me. Souffler is like to blow. Un air de légèreté, de joie, la joie. Okay, that's joy, an air of levity, joy. Et d'insouciance. Carefree, lack of worry. Insouciance. Let's see how that's translated. Lack of concern. Insouciance. What do you say that in English for me? Carefreeness. I'm not sure that there's a noun that really translates easily. Insouciance. It's to do with a lack of caring. Frivolity? Yeah, okay, beautiful. So, when the sun moves through the sign of Gemini between the 21st of May and the 20th of June, and it's sort of there until the summer solstice, it marks the transition between spring and summer, and it symbolises change, giving an air or bringing an air of levity, joy, and frivolity. It's nice, isn't it? Le Gémeaux, like Gemini, basically the sign, a besoin de, avoir besoin de. So this a is from the verb avoir, which means to have. Avoir a besoin de, needs, has need of, or needs to. Réfléchir, to reflect upon something. Pour appréhender. This is what I checked at the beginning, appréhender. So to grasp or to understand, basically, but it's got a sense of like taking something, like to apprehend. Also has a sense of like physically to grasp something, to understand or to grasp. Le monde qui entoure. So Geminis need to, or they need to reflect pour appréhender, in order to grasp, le monde, the world, qui entoure, which is around them. So Geminis have to reflect in order to understand or to grasp or to fathom the world which is around them. C'est en se posant, so certaines questions difficiles qu'il pourra mûrir. So it is en se posant, so this en plus a verb in the present participle, kind of the gerund type form. This means it is by posing or asking oneself. Poser des questions means to ask questions. Se poser des questions means to ask oneself questions. Se is like a reflexive pronoun. C'est en se posant certaines questions. Question, so the word question in French, you pronounce the Q and the U, que. Question. Difficile, That's the adjective difficult, which comes after the noun. So in English we'd say difficult questions. In French generally they say questions difficiles. Difficult questions, questions difficult. Qu'il pourra mûrir. So it is by asking oneself certain difficult questions. Que means that. Il, they. Pourra. Attends. Qu'il pourra. One L. So it is by asking certain difficult questions that he, as in the sign Gemini, whether it's a man or we're talking about, the sign, le signe, c'est masculin. Il pourra. Pourra is the future tense of the verb pouvoir, which means to be able. Okay, it's a modal verb, pouvoir, as well as devoir, which means to have to. Vouloir, which means to want to, but pouvoir means to be able to. So when you say je peux, est-ce que je peux, may I, you're using the verb pouvoir. So pourra means will be able. And then this mûrir with like a circumflex over the U, mûrir, as opposed to mourir. Mourir means to die. Mûrir means to ripen or to mature, okay, or to age, to improve with time, basically. It's a positive thing. So let's have a look at this again. I'm going to read it one more time in French and then I'll just do the translation again. Le Gémeaux, en astrologie, un signe terre. Le Gémeaux est le 3e signe astrologique. Entre le 21 mai et le 20 juin, le soleil se balade dans le signe Gémeaux. Il vient alors fermer la période et se termine lors du solstice d'été. Il fait la transition entre le printemps et l'été, symbolisant le changement et soufflant un air de légèreté, de joie et d'insouciance. Le Gémeaux a besoin de réfléchir pour appréhender le monde qui entoure. C'est en se posant certaines questions difficiles qu'il pourra mûrir. Let's just go through that one more time. In astrology, Gemini is a sign, an air sign. Gemini is the 3rd astrological sign. Between the 21st of May and the 20th of June, the sun takes a trip through the sign of Gemini. It then stops, or ends, it just ends the period when it gets to, or ends it with the summer solstice. It marks the transition between spring, well, this marks the transition between spring and summer, symbolizing the change, sorry, not the change, symbolizing change. So in French, they often use the definite article le or la or les in front of like a noun, but in English we sometimes don't, symbolizing change. And breathing in air. So even though this respirer would be to breathe, souffler, like when you make a souffle, it's something that has air blown into it, air in it. So souffler is to blow, but we in English would probably say breathing life into something or breathing air into something. So we wouldn't necessarily use the word to blow, but here it's something along the lines of breathing an air of lightness, joy, and carefreeness or frivolity or something along those lines. Gemini needs to reflect in order to understand the world, or to grasp the world around, or the world outside, basically. The world outside themselves. It is by posing or by asking themselves certain difficult questions that they are able to, or will be able to, mature. So there you go, voilà. I hope that was useful, guys. Merci beaucoup. Et je vais vous parler très bientôt. Merci, au revoir.